Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. October 26th, 2017.
The Kuhner Report, presented by Kelly Financial Services.
My friends, the shoe is about to drop. That's right. Breaking right now, the DOJ, the Department of Justice under Jeff Sessions, has now agreed to lift the gag order on the FBI informant, the one who penetrated the Russian nuclear industry. This now paves the way for dramatic and, I think, explosive testimony on the Hillary Clinton Uranium One deal. So the gag order that was imposed by Barack Hussein Obama, by the Obama Justice Department and the Obama administration, whereby they threatened this FBI informant, saying that if he spoke to Congress, blew the whistle to the media, spoke to anybody about the bribery, extortion, kickbacks, racketeering that was taking place by the Russians in order to purchase Uranium One, whereby, according to this FBI informant, they deliberately bribed Hillary Clinton. They funneled over $145 million to the Clinton Foundation to bribe her and bribe people around her to give the approval for the sale of our uranium, 20% of our strategic reserves, to the Russians, which, by the way, this is the foundational element for atomic bombs and nuclear weapons. The gag order is now lifted. Obama's people tried to silence him, saying if he did speak, he would go to jail, and that they would crush him with financial penalties, whereby he would literally lose his shirt. That is now gone. It has now been lifted. Republican investigators now, they say they will be speaking to him shortly, and ideally, he will be speaking to the public. So we will know not only his name, we know he's an American businessman, but we'll know exactly his name, his identity. More importantly, he says, incontrovertible documents that show exactly what was going on, that will detail the corruption, the bribery, the kickbacks, the racketeering, that implicates the Clintons, that implicates senior people in the State Department under Obama. Furthermore, secret audio tape recordings, as well as email intercepts. So this thing is now going to blow. And it is no accident that yesterday President Trump, at a mini press conference, impromptu, on his way to Dallas, Texas, there was a media scrum as he was about to board Air Force One, and they shouted out some questions. To their surprise, the president stopped and he engaged him. When asked about Uranium One, Trump's answer, it's our modern Watergate. Roll it, Britain.
Well, I think the uranium sale to Russia and the way it was done, so underhanded, with tremendous amounts of money being passed, I actually think that's Watergate modern age.
He's completely right. In fact, I would go even further. Watergate ultimately was the cover-up of a third-rate burglary. If you know anything about Watergate, Watergate was the hotel, which was also the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, and low-level Nixon people wanting to spy on the DNC, ultimately on George McGovern, who was a radical peacenik, a hard left-winger, part of the peace movement, challenging Nixon in 1972. So they wanted to dig up dirt on the DNC, on McGovern, whatever it was. So they broke into the Watergate Hotel, and then the Nixon administration, who, by the way, he never authorized the break-in. He never authorized the break-in. When he found out about it, though, he realized the media was going to use it against him, and his fatal mistake was to cover it up. We're not talking now about the cover-up of a third-rate burglary. We are now talking about rampant criminal illegal behavior, bribery, corruption, racketeering, and yes, treason. This is the biggest political scandal in American history. Because what now is taking place, what took place under Obama, was a concerted effort by a foreign power, according to the liberals, their words, not mine, our greatest foe, our greatest adversary, to systematically infiltrate the American nuclear industry and then to buy off and bribe the Secretary of State, her husband, key people around her, key people in the Obama administration, to sanction the sale of our uranium to the Russians. By the way, to this day, the Russians own the uranium. It's still ongoing. Not only do they still own the uranium, but according to the New York Times, I'm just citing the New York Times, you can read the story yourself, they do not have an export license. They're not allowed to export the uranium outside of the United States, but in violation of the lack of an export license. They now have been found to have shipped out significant amounts of yellow cake, which can be used for nuclear weapons and even dirty bombs, and we don't know where it's gone to. So not only did this compromise national security, not only did this was treason committed against the United States, and they sold American national interests down the river to a hostile foreign power, but they may even have potentially helped nuke up either the Iranians or the North Koreans. No exaggeration. The nuclear weapons that Kim Jong-un may be flying or sending to kill Americans, that missile may actually have been built with yellow cake sold to them from Uranium One that Hillary and Obama signed off on. If you remember, in fact, you know what, even before I get to that, Trump rightly challenged the entire press corps and said, hold on now, you have been running for nearly a year with this phony baloney story that we now know Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid for, of the Trump dossier. As Maxine Waters would put it, Mad Maxine, the dossier. And we now know that they paid for it. It is this dossier which is the basis of the Robert Mueller investigation. It is this dossier that is the basis of the FBI investigations. It is this dossier that is the basis of the congressional investigations and all of the media coverage alleging that Trump colluded with the Russians. According to them, everything is based on this dossier. We now know it was bought and paid for by Hillary and the DNC. To be specific, the lawyer for the Clinton campaign and the DNC, Mark Elias. We now know that. So the real story is that now the narrative has literally flipped 180 degrees. It's flipped. It's no longer Trump colluded with Putin and the Kremlin. It's now obvious that Hillary and the Democrats colluded with Trump and the Kremlin. And Trump, to his credit, called them all out, saying, yes, there was collusion, but not between me and Putin. It was between Hillary, the Democrats, and Putin. Roll it, Britain.
Not that I know of, no. And I have to say, the whole Russian thing is what it's turned out to be. This was the Democrats coming up with an excuse for losing an election. It's an election that's very hard for a Democrat to lose because the Electoral College is set in such a way that it's very hard to lose that election for a Democrat. They lost it. They lost it very badly and very easily. I mean, you look at the votes, it was 306 to what, 223 or something. They lost it by a lot. They didn't know what to say, so they made up the whole Russia hoax. Now it's turning out that the hoax is turned around, and you look at what's happened with Russia, and you look at the uranium deal, and you look at the fake dossier, so that's all turned around.
Kuhner and Flake-out. Are there any other Republicans you want to see out of the Senate?
He's completely right. He's completely right. Look, the Democrats and this now may change under Trump if he enacts his America First agenda, which is why the media and the Democrats are so desperate to destroy him. But the Democrats have a built-in advantage, almost about a 240 electoral vote built-in advantage before the election even starts. They've got California in the bag. They've got New York in the bag. They've got New Jersey in the bag. They've got Illinois in the bag. I mean, I'm talking, these are huge populous states. So you rack up the states that are automatically in favor of a Democratic candidate, it's almost impossible now for a Republican to win. And so, and with everything we now know about Paul Manafort having worked for the Podesta Group, he was the one that helped the Russian oligarchs on behalf of Putin to influence the Podesta Group and then influencing the Hillary Clinton and the State Department. We now know that Manafort could have actually been a mole by the Clintons to subvert the Trump campaign from the beginning. And remember, the dossier, it's key. It was the basis for Obama's surveillance of Trump. The reason why they were spying on Trump and his campaign was they kept citing the dossier. So everything the Democrats have now based upon Trump was off of the dossier, which now comes to the ultimate question. If you remember, when Don Jr., along with Jared Kushner, and now interestingly, Paul Manafort. Remember when they met with some Russian woman who claimed to have dirt on Hillary? It was a June meeting of last year, and it was found out whenever it was, a couple months ago. The media went apoplectic. They went berserk. They went absolutely crazy. In fact, let me just give you a taste of the reaction when there was Don Jr. allegedly meeting with a Russian to get dirt on Hillary. Roll it, Britain.
Information, dirt on Hillary Clinton from the Russian government, and expecting an agent of the Russian government to be providing it to him, and having the meeting, showing and again signaling the Trump campaign is open for business. We will accept information no matter how it is obtained, legally or illegally. And that is potentially a violation of the Espionage Act. Yes, treason.
We're now beyond obstruction of justice in terms of what's being investigated. This is moving into perjury, false statements, and even into potentially treason.
Given that you say this meeting could border on treason, I want to broaden that out. Does that mean that Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner are bordering on treason as well, as along with Don Jr., and then also that Michael Flynn is bordering on treason, and that the president himself is bordering on treason, because all of them have sought out damaging information about Hillary Clinton from the Russians?
Thirdly, there's outright treason. I mean, there is no question that what he is doing is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Donald Trump.
I could go on. I could play this all show. It was CNN. It was MSNBC. It was Senator Tim Kaine. It was Senator Richard Blumenthal. It was Chief Spreading Bull, Senator Elizabeth Warren, all of them. But this is treason. This is treason of the highest order. These are high crimes. This is going to lead to impeachment. This must lead to impeachment. They were talking about jail time for Don Jr., for Jared Kushner, for Paul Manafort, for Trump himself. Well, hold on now. What is the Trump dossier? The dossier. Christopher Steele is the author primarily of the dossier. This is an open fact. This is now indisputable. You look at the dossier itself. Christopher Steele allegedly went to Russia. Every unnamed, anonymous, unidentified source in the dossier is based off of dirt given to him by Russians. Russian agents, allegedly, Russian intelligence officials. So, if it was illegal and treasonous for Don Jr. to have met with a Russian to get dirt on Hillary, why isn't it treason for Hillary Clinton to have paid for Russian agents to give dirt on Donald Trump? Hello? By their own definition, by what they said about Don Jr. and about that infamous June meeting, Hillary Clinton, by their own definition now, is guilty of treason. And now there's one more thing, and I'm telling you this is going to come out in the next couple of days, hopefully. There was one Republican who initially funded the Fusion GPS, the firm in Washington that hired Christopher Steele to dig up these phony allegations and the dossier. That Republican, after Trump won the primary, allegedly stopped funding Fusion GPS and the dossier, and then it was picked up by Hillary Clinton's campaign and by the DNC. Who is that anonymous Republican? There are only two people. It's either Jeb Bush, Jebito, it's got the Bush, to me it's got Bush written all over it, or McManiac. He was the one who sent his staffer to meet with Steele. The moment Steele had completed the dossier, flew right back to Washington. They didn't even read it. McCain got it and then ran up to FBI headquarters. He gave it to Comey. He then gave it to the CIA. He gave it to the NSA. Take your pick. It was either Jebito or it was McManiac. Whoever it is, they must go as well. My question to you now is this. Now with the gag order being lifted, with the FBI informant now about to tell his story about exactly what happened regarding Uranium One, is Hillary Clinton guilty of treason? And will she now finally go to prison? And who do you think the Republican is? 617-266-6868. Your calls next.
Trump Jr., what he did was a threat to our democracy and borderline treason.
Is the facts reported in the New York Times article come very close, if not crossing the line, with respect to treason.
We've got to start being outraged. This is the scariest thing I've seen in my life in politics.
Now, what's this mean legally in terms of the Constitution and high crimes and misdemeanors?
Well, legally, this is a smoking cannon. First of all, you've got violations of the federal campaign laws.
I think what we're learning with the Trump Jr. meeting is when you meet with any Russians, you're meeting with Russian intelligence.
1227 here on the great WRKO. Now, remember, these were powerful Democrats, leading members of the mainstream media. This is what they said after revelations came out that Don Jr. met with a Russian woman who said she had some dirt on Hillary Clinton. You remember that? That infamous meeting? It was treason, high crimes and misdemeanor, prison time, jail time. It's not a smoking gun, it's a smoking cannon. Okay. Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC paid for the dossier that all it did was compile dirt by Russian agents to smear Trump with. So, by their definition, by their own twisted logic, then if it was treason for Don Jr. and impeachable for Donald Trump and jail time for all of them, why isn't it treasonous on the part of Hillary? Why isn't it time for her to go to prison? By their logic alone, Hillary Clinton belongs behind bars. And now the gag order has been lifted on the FBI informant. He will now be telling us the truth and nothing but the truth. If I were Hillary Clinton, I think it's time to find a country where there's no extradition treaty, because she could be in big trouble. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Go ahead, Arthur.
Jeff, one thing always bothered me when Obama turned around and dismissed those 57 diplomats from this country like he was doing something decisive. Where I said, Jesus, that's not like this guy. And now maybe it's possible that those 57 diplomats had a lot to do with this, and he wanted to get them out of the country, back to Russia, where we couldn't do anything to them.
Arthur, look, I got it, and thank you for that call, Arthur. Look, everything now begins to make more sense. When you now realize that they had bought Hillary Clinton, lock, stock, and barrel, and that Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch were covering up for the Uranium One sale, and that Obama clearly was how implicated. We're going to find out exactly how over the next coming days and weeks. Everything now, all the pieces begin to, they all make sense. 617-266-6868. Paul Ryan, I'll continue to take your calls. Paul Ryan has been exposed. His secret plan to give amnesty to DACA beneficiaries. You're not going to believe this one. But first, there is breaking news on the House passing the budget. Let's take it to Evan Heidenrich in the newsroom. 1236 here on the great WRKO, 617-266-6868. The lines are blazing. We're going to get to them, I promise, in just a second. However, I would be remiss if I did not mention this very important story to all of you. So, as you know, there is a big push going on by establishment Republicans and Democrats to grant amnesty to the beneficiaries of DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Essentially, the children, people who came into this country illegally while they were younger, brought in by their parents. There are at least 800,000 of them that are now going to be eligible for amnesty. President Trump has said repeatedly he's willing to do some kind of a deal, but it has to include funding for the border wall, E-Verify, serious restrictions on legal immigration. In other words, it has to be part of a total package that really starts to secure our border and crack down on sanctuary cities. Paul Ryan announced in a meeting just a couple days ago to the Republican Study Committee that he has a secret amnesty plan. His secret, Jeff, what's Rhino Ryan's secret amnesty plan? He now plans to attach amnesty, this is what he told them, to amnesty for the DACA illegal aliens to a end of the year spending bill. Quote, this is from Republican Study Committee Chairman Mark Walker, a Republican from North Carolina. Quote, talking about Ryan, he did talk about the fact that that would be good if we could get ahead of that, meaning the amnesty, as opposed to being reactionary. And so he told everybody we want to be proactive about this, and the way to be proactive about this is to slip it into a spending bill, Christmas time, end of the year. People aren't paying attention to politics. They're thinking about buying gifts, having family over, maybe New Year's celebrations. The kids are thinking about Santa Claus. That's when you do it. Essentially, in the dead of night. Now, the first obvious point. Look how these politicians on Capitol Hill are always doing things behind our back. What the hell does a spending bill have to do with giving amnesty to 800,000 illegal aliens? Like zero. So if DACA is such a good thing, like the elites tell us, and if giving them amnesty is, so popular, they keep telling us amnesty for the DACA beneficiaries is just so popular, overwhelmingly popular, Republicans support it, Democrats support it, Independents support it, then hold an up or down vote. Up or down, yay or nay. And those that are opposed, if they say it's such a heinous thing to oppose it, let them be counted. What are you afraid of? Instead, they have to sneak it in. And I'll tell you why they have to sneak it in. Because they don't want you to know the details. Because once, as they say, the devil is in the details. Once you know the details, you realize it's not just 800,000 that are going to get amnesty. It's going to be at least 2.5 to 3 million. Because their parents who came in illegally are also going to get amnesty. And then many of their relatives are going to be allowed to come in as well, because they're going to get amnesty. And then you're going to find out what the total price tag is. And once you realize it's going to cost us over $115 billion, all of a sudden then it's no longer about the children. And then they would lose that vote. So instead, they want to sneak it in. And what's really disgusting about this, and I want to give a really big hat tip to Breitbart, because they've been extremely good on this story, is Ryan is even pushing this, even though there is now growing evidence that many of these DACA illegals, there was no background check on any of them. Many of them are murderers and killers. Just less than a month ago, okay, this is the children that they keep telling us about. A DACA recipient, Daniel De Jesus Rangel Scherer, 19 years of age. Okay, he's one of these 800,000 illegal aliens shielded by DACA, prevented from deportation. He's even given a work permit. Confessed that he took an 18-year-old girl, Diana Martinez Gonzalez, because he says that she was spreading rumors about him, false rumors about him, took her to the woods, and then shot and killed her. He didn't just murder her, he also brought another girl that he wanted to murder as well. And by the grace of God, she managed to escape. According to the police in the town of Easley, South Carolina, Scherer admitted, he confessed that he did kill her and he did murder her because she happened to be spreading rumors about him. You don't like that one, Jeff? Okay, there's going to be one bad one. Okay, how about this one? In another one, Laura Wilkerson, an angel mom, lost her son, Josh, because another illegal alien that DACA shielded from deportation, he did, beat to death her son with a crowbar repeatedly and then set his body on fire. Okay, you don't like that one. Here's another one. Cynthia Garcia Cisneros, an illegal alien protected, another one by DACA from deportation, was driving in a car. She was convicted of 2 counts of felony hit and run. There were 2 Oregon stepsisters, Anna Dieter Eckert and Abigail Robinson. She plowed them with her car. They were playing on the streets. She came and just plowed them both with her car in a hit and run. There are at least 2,100 convicted criminals or gangbangers that are part of these so-called dreamers. Thousands more are now been convicted of murder, rape, hit and run. And these people are telling us we need to give them all a blanket amnesty? No way. No way. But notice, when it comes to appeasing their donors, look how fast they move. But when it comes to prosecuting Hillary Clinton, when it comes to finding out the truth about Uranium One, where's Ryan O'Ryan? Where's Mitch the Squish McConnell? If it wasn't for Jeff Sessions and President Trump having the gag order lifted on this FBI informant, we never would have heard and never would hear from this FBI informant. The swamp needs to be drained, and it starts with the Republican leadership. 617-266-6868. Okay, lines are loaded. Bruce in Woburn. Go ahead, Bruce.
No howling, just clapping. Hillary, everybody thought that she was going to get in, and she thought this was all going to get swept under the rug, Jeff. This was never, ever going to come out. They were going to keep going with the Trump collusion thing. I'm just hoping that this FBI informant dude doesn't get dead, like they don't put a hit on him before he starts to open up his mouth. And all the people that are involved, it's like opening Pandora's box, Jeff. This is the best Thursday I've had in a long time, even though it's raining.
Bruce, look, I got to tell you, this is huge. This news now that the gag order's been lifted is sending reverberations, shockwaves across Washington. the mainstream media, they don't know what to do now. I mean, do you cover it up? If you cover it up, you're going to lose whatever shred of credibility you have left, because when this guy blows the whistle, you aren't covering the biggest story of our time. So what do? Do you cover it up, or do you report on it? Like, how do you? They don't know how to deal with this right now. They really don't. They're having meetings all across Washington and New York in newsrooms. What do we do now? Because the whole narrative that they have been pushing is going to blow up in their faces. It's already blowing up, but it's going to really detonate. Now, what I find incredible is this. Okay, I want you to think about this. What I find absolutely incredible is that now we know Hillary's involvement, and now we're going to get the proof, and it's going to be overwhelming. Okay, we know that. Notice what Hillary did. We know that she and her people paid for the dossier. So what they did was, in many ways, they accused Trump of the very crimes that they're guilty of. Who colluded with Putin and the Kremlin? She did. Who was on the take from the Russians? She was. Who was the one that gave the store to the Russians? She did. So who could blackmail her? Putin. So everything, remember, the heart of the dossier is they have all this incriminating evidence on Trump, and I'm not just talking about the golden showers and the peeing on the bed and the prostitutes. No, business deals, money, secret bank accounts, everything. And they could use this to blackmail Trump, and they could use this to buy national security and buy up American interests. Everything that the dossier alleges is exactly what Hillary Clinton did. You want to talk about classic transference? This is it. Anne-Marie on the South Shore. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Hi, Jeff. I hope you give me just a few minutes, because I'll tell you something. I came up with an idea for your show. After listening to you for the short period of time, boy, do I have comments on every single thing that you've brought forward. Maybe you should have some people come in someday, sit beside you, just ask what their opinion is. But here's mine. As far as I'm concerned with this Mueller investigation, it should come to a screeching halt right now. Basically, because if Mueller was doing his job, he would have uncovered all of this, and it would have pointed to the Democratic Party. But see, he couldn't do that. He knows what's going on. He had to find something on Donald Trump. He's not going to, because again, you can twist and turn a lie in any direction you choose. But when it's the truth, it's the truth.
Anne-Marie, you're completely right. And I want you to think about this. Who oversaw the FBI investigation? Rod Rosenstein, the very same Deputy Attorney General who appointed Mueller to be the special counsel. So he knew that this FBI informant had cracked the Russians. He knew that this FBI informant knew all of this damaging information about the Clintons, the Obama administration, and Uranium One. And who was his boss? Robert Mueller. Remember, Mueller is FBI director until 2013. This investigation began in 2009. Okay, it lasted until 2015. So Uranium One was sold in 2010. So who oversaw the investigation directly? Rosenstein. Who was his boss? Mueller. And both of them signed off on the Uranium One deal. You see, they're both complicit in this. So how can Mueller now be special counsel? He's got a blatant conflict of interest. You knew about all of this criminality, and not only did you turn a blind eye and do nothing, but you signed off on the actual deal? Buddy, forget recusing yourself. Forget being fired. You may end up in prison. Brian in Pembroke. Go ahead, Brian.
Jeff, you there?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good. Been listening to you since day one. I think the Clintons are the modern-day Rosenbergs of this country.
You mean the ones that gave away our nuclear secrets to the Russians when we over the atomic bomb?
Yep, and what did we do to those two?
We hung them.
Yeah, and I think the same thing should be done to the Clintons and anybody with their hand on anything they had to do. They're despicable. They've sold our country down. And McCain is the modern-day Benedict Arnold.
Brian, thank you for that call. Look, they're traitors. Let's be very clear now. Hillary and Bill Clinton are traitors. Eric Holder is a traitor. Loretta Lynch is a traitor. Robert Mueller is a traitor. Rosenstein is a traitor. And Barack Hussein Obama, the man who orchestrated the whole thing, caught on a hot mic telling Medvedev, hey, he called him Vladimir. Tell Vladimir, not Mr. President or President, tell Vladimir, I'll be a little bit more flexible after I win this election. They all should go to jail.
My last election, yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah, I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and understand.
Every single one of them. The search is on. Who was the one Republican who was helping to fund the Trump dossier? Is it Jabito? Was it John McManiac? Who was it? Everybody wants to know, and I want to know. Donna, you're up next. Go ahead, Donna.
Hey, Jeff.
Donna.
Hey, honey, this is why it's better that Trump won instead of Jabito and Rubio and all the rhinos, because they never would have let this see the light of day. They would have kept the gag order going. Second reason why it's better that he won, and why Trump also probably wanted this investigation to continue, because he knew that these facts would be exposed. So you answered my question when you said, when Mueller served under his function and all that. That shows that he knew. He knew. So he should be charged along with Comey, all the other folks you brilliantly named. I think McCabe ought to be added. And on who funded and who helped, Jabito's family has the money. McManiac is willing to do the dirty work, too. Because you remember he sent his agent over to Britain, was it,
yes.
to pick up that dossier?
Yes.
Well, if he knew, and all these rhinos are together, I swear to God, I'll give you draw blood and donate it for this one. McConnell and Ryan and Pelosi and Schumer knew about it too, and the whole freaking sewer's in it together.
I'm with
They
you,
need
Donna.
to strain them all out.
I'm with you. Look, this is big. I don't say this lightly. This is the biggest political scandal in American history. And now we're going to, hopefully with this FBI informant, this gag order being taken off, being lifted, it's going to blow. Oh, it's going to blow. Joe in Medfield. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Jeffy, I got one for you. How much you want to bet that those 33,000 emails that were deleted had a lot of back and forth about this dossier, and the lawyers that deleted it for her, she said, oh, my lawyers deleted it. Was it the same law firm that contracted Fusion GPS?
Yes.
They should subpoena the email trail right away from Fusion GPS.
Joe, you're brilliant. Joe, it's brilliant. Joe, don't get me wrong. I've only got eyes for my wife, but I love you in a non-sexual way. Brilliant. You're right. The same law firm that was involved with the emails was the one that contracted out the Trump dossier. Of course. Now we know why she had to destroy so many of those emails. All roads from Mother Russia lead to Hillary. Okay, coming up next, one of the key organizers of the Boston Free Speech Rally is suing Macho Marty Walsh for $100 million for slander. Yes, finally. We'll discuss that story. Let's take it to Evan Heidenrich, who has the latest on Trump declaring the opiate a national emergency.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 1 o'clock.